Welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting, 3rd of May 2022 in the beautiful Mount Beauty. Thank you everybody for coming. Must be lots of interesting stuff on the agenda. At this point in time, I'd like to hand over to our Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Bird.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 1 is recording and live streaming of council meetings. All council meetings are filmed with both video and audio being recorded. The video is focused on a specific area, however audio from the entire room is captured. By submitting a question, you consent to your question being read aloud at the meeting. In common with all narrative during council meetings, verbal responses to congratulations, obituaries and question time will not be recorded in the written minutes. The reasoning behind recording council meetings is, of course, to hold us more accountable and improve the transparency of council's decision making to our community. The full meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to council's YouTube channel, which is Alpinestar Council, and will also be available on the YouTube channel after this meeting. So this meeting isn't being live streamed. We don't have the facilities. If it was in the chambers, it would be live streamed. However, it's just being recorded and will be available after this meeting.
Thank you. Item 2. The Alpinestar Council acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we are now on. We pay our respect to elders past and present. We also acknowledge those people who have contributed to the rich fabric of our community and strive to make wise decisions that will improve the quality of life for all. Item 3 is confirmation of minutes from the Ordinary Council meeting 5th of April 2022. See the recommendation on the board. Councillor Janus has moved the recommendation. Councillor Kelly has seconded. Any comments, questions?
Madam Mayor, if I could just make a just to highlight that there was in the item 9.3.1e in relation to the dinner planes special rate, it was incorrect, and the rate has been corrected to be 43% of the general rate, not 143% of the general rate.
I'm not sure the dinner plane people would have thought it was funny. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bird. We'll take the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 4 is apologies, which we have none. Item 5 is obituaries. Congratulations. And I'll start with Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one item on congratulations. I wanted to call out the subcommittees of our sub-branches of the RSL, and post 2 years of limited recognition and activities on Anzac Day, it was terrific to see a great turnout and really well organised, and a great opportunity for our community to gather together today on that day. So well done to the sub-branches.
Councillor Kiwa.
Thanks, Mayor Nicholas. I too would like to extend my congratulations to the sub-branches. Also to all our business owners that are doing it tough, are still doing it tough with lack of staffing, and the amount of people that we've had over the Easter period and the other long weekends. Have done a fantastic job of staying open when they can, as much as they can, and providing the services that visitors and ratepayers and residents look forward to. So congratulate them too.
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've got 2 today. Big congratulations to the committee and all the community groups involved in the gala event over in Bright on the weekend. It was absolutely wonderful to have that representation again. I grew up over there, getting very excited as a child to be able to hop in the gala event. There were many smiling faces, many visitors who welcomed that back. So congratulations to everybody involved, not only in the float, but behind the scenes as well. There was a really wonderful tribute to the late Alan J. Finlay, which was very appropriate. It was the first one that we did have without him leading the way. So congratulations to everyone there. And the other one was, I was lucky enough to be the judge at Bright's Got Talent after the gala event as well. And there was there was a lot of children involved. There was teenagers, there was adults as well that entered the event. To be able to stand up there in front of people is never an easy thing, but a massive congratulations to the crowd that got involved as well. They clapped, they were just very supportive of the whole thing. So the event as a whole is run by a group called the Mandala Project. They're a community group that come together to raise awareness of what it is that the youth have representation for, and it was just fantastic to see that happening year in and out. So big congratulations to the youth that were involved in the organisation of that as well.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes, and here. Councillor Prime.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll reiterate what was said about Anzac Day. I went to the Mount Beauty event and it ran extremely smoothly, as it does every year. It's very well run. Secondly, just congratulations to, some may not know this, since 2018, every year when Dettering Mount Beauty Football Club host Wodonga Saints in Mount Beauty, we call it the Black Dog Round. And Luke Potter of the Dettering Mount Beauty Football Club was the main instigator of this a few years ago, and he works really, really hard to raise money beforehand. It's a really good day. He's made a huge event of it. He messaged me today and said they'd raised almost $3,000 on the weekend, so that was very well done by them. That's good. And we got a win on the board by 2 points as well, so for the netball. The footballers had a good win too, so that was very good.
Thank you, Councillor Prime. Councillor Forsyth.
Thanks, Mayor. Not to be outdone, I just want to congratulate, and I can't see any in the room now, the 12 new Australian citizens we inducted this afternoon. So I think it's just it's evident that people want to come here. They want to live here and they want to just enjoy being Australian. So congratulations to them.
Thank you, Councillor Forsyth. Councillor Jennings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll reiterate in relation to the Anzac Day events. I attended the Myrtleford one and I had to upskill my marching and drill skills for the march as well. But also I want to congratulate our staff. Over this period of the last couple of weekends, there's been an enormous number of tourists in our area, and to keep our facilities at some sort of half-decent level has been a major task, and our towns and gardens are, looking presentable as best they can in the circumstances. So, Bright in itself was so full of people, and I've noticed that in Myrtleford with the overflow, and certainly would have been here over on this side of the valley as well.
Thank you, Councillor Janice. And for myself, I just wanted to reiterate again, Anzac was fantastic in Bright. The Gala Parade was amazing. So the Rotary Market did really well. And the Mandala project that Councillor Hughes talked about was a very favourite of Alan J. Findlay as well. So it was great to see that it went so well over the weekend. Our next item is declarations by councillors of conflict of interest. We don't have any that anyone's recognised at this point in time. The next item then is public questions. We have a number of questions that have been sent in, and I thought that it would be better, sorry, I've lost my place. I thought it would be better to talk to the ones that have been written first and then ask for questions from the floor in case there's been something missed or something's covered in the questions that are asked by paper. So the first question comes from Virginia Vinden Price. And to Shire Council representatives, please advise what is your strategy for the installation of public electric charging stations in the Kiwa Valley, as there are currently none. And I will ask our Director of Corporate to respond. Thank you, Helen Havcroft.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Council have been working with the North East Councils with the aim of providing North East Link charging network to enable electric vehicle drivers with touring confidence through our respective councils. Currently, we've been approached by a Kiwa Valley-based company and have been providing them with information around putting one EV charging point in one of our VIC car parks that they would own and operate, but would still be in our council VIC car park. They've not finalised the confirmation of this installation yet. We've also recently completed a letter of support with Indigo Power to say that we support the installation of electric vehicle chargers in the Alpinestar.
Thank you, Ms Havercroft. Mr Bird.
And just for clarification, the VIC is a visitor information centre.
Thank you. Question 2 is from Patrick Atkins. I would like to know when Toowoomba will get sewage. You've put sewage to a commercial property by the river, bypassing all private properties on Mountain Creek Road. When will sewage be put in Toowoomba itself? There is some more, but that's fundamentally the question. And Ms Havercroft will answer that one too.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Toowoomba is in the sewer district. Therefore, the questions really have to be forwarded to North East Water. But I just wanted to highlight that our domestic wastewater management plan states that new dwellings inside declared sewer districts are required to connect to a reticulated sewer network unless connection is proven non-feasible to Council and North East Water. Developers need to liaise with North East Water regarding connection opportunities. North East Water may also consider facilitating development on fringe of sewer areas with connection to reticulated sewer if it's viable to do so.
Thank you, Ms Havercroft. The next question I'm putting forward is from Glenn Wilson. It is about the airstrip work in Mount Beauty. The plan is apparently to pipe the wastewater from North East Water's sewerage plant rather than have it run in an open drain, and install a separate pipe to carry stormwater from the hangars in the same direction and to discharge at the same point. Would it not be more cost-effective and smarter to tap the stormwater into the planned large-diameter waste water pipe? And I will ask Mr Jeremy to take that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So as explained in the question on notice, we have water coming from North East Water, wastewater, and we need to tap into it from each of the hangars in the airfield. So we looked at two different solutions. One is, as suggested by the proponent here, is to tap into a concrete pipe every time we have a hangar. The recommended solution is to collect the water coming off the stormwater from each of the hangars in a separate plastic pipe, and at the end of the hangars to tap in a single place through a pit. So this is a recommendation from our design consultants, which we support. So it's a technically better solution. It doesn't involve having multiple tappings into a concrete pipe every time there's a hangar, and that's the reason we've adopted that approach.
Madam Mayor, I'm just reading the question, Glenn Wilson's question. There's a last sentence in there around about the boundaries and the fences. Is that worth? That's the second question, I think. I think we missed that one.
Thank you, Councillor Keeble, and apologise, Mr Wilson, for missing that. I was also advised, as I'm reading the question, so Mr Wilson was also advised that the boundary fence between North East Water and the airport is in the wrong position, but there are no plans to correct this fairly large land boundary anomaly. Why does Council not take this opportunity to correct this while works are being done with both drainage and fencing of boundaries?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So North East Water has a batter for one of their storage ponds, and the batter encroaches onto Council's land in the airport. So the fence line is historically run at the bottom of that batter rather than halfway up or somewhere else on the batter, and that is where we are running the fence at the moment. So this has no operational impact on the airport. Glenn's right, we could have taken an opportunity to correct it two ways. You could ask North East Water to move their pond and the batter, but that has a significant impact on North East Water if we were to do that, for no operational benefit for Council or the airport. The other opportunity is to potentially engage in a land swap with North East Water, which, if we chose to fix this, that would probably be the most cost-effective way to deliver this. At this point, it's not a priority for us. A priority is to get the project finished and get the airport back into operation for the use of the community in the airport.
Thank you, Mr Jeremy, and again, Mr Keeble, Councillor Keeble. The next 5 questions are all about a planning application, which is item 8.3.1 on our agenda, 19 Toowoomba Crescent, or the golf club development. I'm only taking 2 questions from each of the pages that have been sent to us. But because there are so many that are similar, I've tried to select not just the first 2, but from across the range of questions so that it covers all the issues that have been raised. Many of the questions are still a bit similar in nature, but we'll do our best. We'll answer them now, and there will be further discussion at item 8.3.1 amongst the councillors, so that will consolidate or perhaps answer some more questions. So the first question I'll address comes from Georgie Fonet. It's question 1 and 2, I'll read. Question 1. Would those present at this meeting be happy to have a licensed entertainment venue of this size directly opposite their home when there is other land available? And question 2. Would those present at this meeting find it acceptable that car parking for a licensed entertainment venue with the associated continued noise after closing hours be situated directly on their fence line when there is clearly so much other land available? So these questions aren't questions that councillors can answer. Councillors make decisions based on the planning scheme, and these questions are outside of that. To explain that a bit more, if it was in a councillor's backyard, that councillor would have to declare a conflict of interest and wouldn't be able to be involved in the decision, the discussion or the vote. So that's the best we can do with those. The next question come from... sorry, I have to get right to the end of this one. We had some very great information about views from this one. Gabrielle Thompson. Thank you very much, Gabrielle. The first question is about rezoning. When did rezoning from zoning as parks and recreation to special use zone occur? And the second question is about place of assembly. Following initial assessment of the application, concerns were raised regarding the use of the proposed community pavilion forming part of the clubhouse redevelopment not being used in an ancillary manner to the existing golf course. In response to this, the application was amended to include a new use of place of assembly. The applicant has applied for use and building of works for a place of assembly, with the remainder of the proposed buildings and works being used for ancillary purposes to the existing golf course. VCAT has determined that planning permit approval is not required for an ancillary land use. This is from our planning report, I believe, page 25. The question is about, this is new information. How will this impact the community and local residents? And I will ask Ms Havercroft to respond to both questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So turning to the first question, the rezoning occurred in November 2021. That was when it was gazetted. It came before Council in March 2021, and the reason for the application was to align the ownership of the land with the zoning of the land. So it was privately owned, the golf course is privately owned, and the zone was Parks and Recreation. And so it was moved to special use zone because it's not under public ownership. And that was the recommendation that came before Council in March 21 and was approved, forwarded to the Minister, and it took between March and November for the gazetting to take place. Turning to the second question, in the original application that was presented to the planners, there was no place of assembly. Following submissions about how the intended use of the golf club and the spaces within it, they amended their application to include a place of assembly, and so the assessment took place on that basis. We reassessed the place of assembly parts of the application, and so amenity and noise and all of the items that are listed in the report, principally on page 25, were taken into consideration to make sure that it did fit with both the golf club's intended use and the planning scheme as it's set out.
Thank you, Ms Havercroft. The next 2 questions come from Leanne and Rick Caparelli. Question 1. Is the proposed parking allocated in the optimum position within feet of residents and against back fences when there is acres of land available for this purpose? And the second question that I take tonight is, I understand that access and utilities are already within this area. However, for the purpose of merging residential and commercial proportioned, would not a realignment of the proposed structures be in the best interest of all concerned? Moving the building and parking 10 to 20 metres further down the golf course property and away from residential building. Ms Havercroft.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So turning to the first question related to parking, there's two different sections in the planning application relating to parking. One element is on-street parking, and the planning engineering teams have suggested that all parking should form part of the land which Mount Beauty Golf Course own, so that the parking should be situated within their own property. And conditions are going to be placed, should the application be supported this evening, on the applicant to ensure that there's landscaping where the parking borders residential properties, and additionally there will be landscaping on the street face as well, in addition to that. Turning to the second question, we get an application and we assess it as it's presented to us. In this instance, there was an amendment to the application and then a forum that took place after that to meet with the applicants and the objectors together to see if they could talk through some of those objections. At that meeting, it was agreed that the application would be assessed as it's been presented. So options relating to moving the building or considering it in a different space were discussed during that meeting, but they requested that the application be assessed on the basis of how it was presented to the planning team for assessment. So it wasn't an option that was presented to us.
Thank you, Ms Havercroft. The next questions are from Lisa McLeod and Heather Blampede, and it's similar to ones we've had before. The question is, and it's referring to the golf club development, not can it be built, but should it be built in this location? And I will ask Ms Havercroft to talk to this one too, and then ask the second one.
Sorry, Madam Mayor. Can I just quickly find the question? Could you repeat it for
Absolutely.
me? Sorry.
The question is not can it be built, but should it be built in this location? It's got question 4 at the top of the page.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry. This is, in many respects, follows the same response to the previous question. So the applicant amended the application following commentary from submissions provided to the planning department and subsequent conversations with the planning department about how the assessment was going. And they've asked for the assessment to take place based on the information that we've been presented as a planning team and assessed accordingly. And as you can see in the report, the recommendation this evening is that we would that the application be supported and given approval, subject to, I haven't got the number, I will find it, but significant number of conditions to try and address many of the concerns that have been presented to the applicant from the objectors.
Thank you, Ms Havercroft. The second question from Lisa and Heather is also very similar to a previous one. Why hasn't an alternative location been sought where it doesn't impact on any residents?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I've said, during the forum, for those that were in attendance, there was some discussion about moving it to a different location within the site that Mount Beauty have at their disposal. And the applicant talked to using the same footprint, although enlarged in this application, the footprint of the original clubhouse, and making use of that space where it has already cut into the land and they already have flat space there, and again asked us to assess the application as it's been presented, and that's the assessment that is before you this evening.
Thank you, Ms Havercroft. Question from Greg Lee. Setback of proposed building from Toowoomba Crescent. The golf club own 100 acres of land to build a new clubhouse, but it is determined to build only 3.6 metres from its southern boundary. This large building will have the maximum impact on properties in Toowoomba Crescent. Houses in Toowoomba Crescent are set back approximately 7 metres from the boundary. Why are Alpinestar planners supporting this inconsistency and not directing the golf course to allow a generous setback?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this comes to the different zonings of different plots of land. The special use zone and residential zones have different criteria under which the assessment is made. So where those two things join, it can seem inconsistent. In this scenario, a residential dwelling is covered by the residential code, and that has standard setbacks that we would expect an application to cover. Those setbacks are different in a special use zone, in a park and recreation zone, in a commercial zone, and the planning team assessed that it was an adequate setback. And there is various setbacks that are referred to in the application and in responses and some of the notices that questions that we've received. So just to provide some clarity, I hope, the assessment is done from the wall, and part of the Mount Beauty development is that it has quite an overhanging roof. So some of the setbacks that throw some numbers around. So it's 6.195 metres from the boundary across the road, Toowoomba Crescent, to the wall, which, when you consider the roof, makes it quite a lot shorter. I think it's 3.6 to the boundary. It'd actually make it about 7 metres away from any building, because people's houses are set back from their boundary lines as well. So there is different zonings, and then because of the nature of the design of this building, there's the assessment is done based on a solid wall that's consistent with other assessments that take place, but this does have a large overhanging roof structure.
Thank you, Ms Havercroft, and thank you everybody who provided the questions. I did want to make sure that everybody had their questions aired as well as we could tonight. I now ask for questions from the floor. And could you come up to the podium and state your name, please? Questions from the floor are limited to 2 per person.
Mine's not actually a question to Charlie, but rather to say, as one of your predecessors, I appreciate how much work you've had to do all these years. I suffered too, and I just going to wish you well on behalf of the Cemetery Trust, the TDCA, and the other organisations I've been involved with over the years. We've had a great working relationship, and thank you for everything you've done. All the best for the future.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Sue. And just to clarify, I haven't suffered, but
Not yet.
but thank you. Not yet.
Thank you from the councillors too, Sue. Any further questions from the floor? No, don't be bashful, exactly. It's fantastic to see so many people here, by the way. It's really wonderful to see this is democracy in action. No?
I sent a question, it must have gone to the Mars, I think. I sent a question about 3 weeks ago. Followed it up with a reminder, and it's not on your little list.
It's not?
No.
Would you like to ask it from the floor?
Sorry, Charlie.
Would you like to ask it in person?
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you. And apologise.
We had a census down at Toowoomba about the hall, about the proposal of how we spend our funding money. And the census was done. Mr Tony Wright came along and had it all set out. We had conception one was that the toilet would be inside and the roof line would not be changed. And then number 2 was that we would extend the toilet outside, and so that would be an extra roof extension. When it came to the actual thing coming out in the paper, it was arse about. So 1 used to be toilets inside, and number 2 were toilets outside. When it went to the public, number 1 was toilets outside, and number 2 were toilets inside. And according to the numbers, 66% did want the toilets outside, but I think the census was quite inferior because of the numbers being quite different. And a lot of people were numerically looking at it and not using the words. So I believe the census was quite inaccurate.
Yeah, the question?
The question is, can we have another census?
Thank you. Mr Jeremy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we were aware of that issue, and it was pointed out to us quite early in the process, and we did the best we can to correct that and advise the community of the fact that they'd been switched. To our understanding, the community was aware of the information, aware on what they were voting. So the questions were quite straightforward, despite the fact that the numbers were different. And our belief is that the community voted for the option that they wanted to see delivered.
Thank you, Mr. Jeremy. Are there further questions from the floor? No? In which case, we'll get on to presentations of reports by officers. I was wondering, Barb, do you have a follow-up question? No? Wait briefly. 8.1, Chief Executive Officer Mr. Bird. 8.1.1, contracts approved by the CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There are 3 contracts that have been approved by the CEO since the last council meeting. The first one is for bridge design services for the Snowy Creek Bridge for Chris O'Brien and Co., electrical line clearing in Myrtleford to Arborescence, and the third one is for unsealed road drainage maintenance to water to road excavations and Ryder Civil. It is recommended that the contracts approved by the CEO be noted.
Thank you, Mr. Bird. Councillor Forsyth's moved. Councillor Prime has seconded. Anybody like to comment?
I've got a question.
Yep.
Thanks, Mayor Nicholas. The electric line clearing in Myrtleford, we've had this comes up every now and then. Most people would know that electrical line clearing is done by a certain company that owns the power lines. Can it be explained why we're clearing those electric lines in Myrtleford, please?
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. So AusNet Service is responsible for the majority of clearing of vegetation on the electrical lines. The Shire at Myrtleford at a point in time made a decision that they wanted to be responsible for the line clearing of the electrical lines in the township. And from that point, Myrtleford Shire and now the Alpine Shire has undertaken that line clearing. What's interesting about this is that both AusNet Services and Council engage the same contractor to undertake this piece of work, and Council ratepayers pay for this.
So my next obvious question, thanks CEO, is when will we change this? You can't say leave it up to next week.
It's unlikely we'll change it in the next few weeks, but it is clearly a matter which we need to work through. There'll be a process to work through in a methodical and clear way, and something we need to prioritise to ensure that the responsibility sits with AusNet Services, not with Council in the future, should Council choose to decide to do that into the future.
Councillor Forsyth.
Yes, just on that, and thank you for bringing it up, Councillor Keeble. Will the line clearing be done at the same time as AusNet Services are doing their line clearing, which would then tend to suggest that our quote, if it's not done, our quote could have been cheaper?
That's a really good question. Mr. Jeremy, are you able to respond?
Thank you, Councillor Forsyth. So the first point to make is the work has been completed. So it's taken a while to come to this council meeting, but the work's actually been delivered. We understand, so we went to a competitive tendering process to have these works delivered. It did, as CEO Charlie Bird mentioned, it did go to the same contractor, but it could have gone to different contractors. So we go through, like we do for all big pieces of work, a competitive process in order to secure the best rates for our ratepayers.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? We'll take that one to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. The next item is 8.1.2, appointment of consultancy services for Chief Executive Officer Recruitment. Mr. Bird.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report relates to the award of a contract for the provision of consulting services to lead the recruitment and selection of the next CEO. So I've been appointed to a new position, and I will conclude my role in a few weeks on the 20th of May. And councillors obligated under the, let's push this back, under the Act to obtain independent professional advice to conduct the recruitment selection of a new CEO, and as stipulated in our CEO employment and remuneration policy adopted by Council in December last year. So in accordance with all of that, requests for quotes were sought and advertised between the 8th of April and 22nd of April via tenders.net. The document was downloaded by 12 prospective tenderers, and 6 submissions were received by the closing date. The evaluation was conducted by the CEO Employment and Remuneration Committee, which included Independent Chairperson David Priest, Mayor Sarah Nicholas, and Councillor Tony Keeble and Councillor Kelly Prime. The tenders were evaluated in accordance with the key selection criteria, and following a really comprehensive assessment and thorough due diligence of the assessments, it is recommended that Council awards the contract to Camden Search and Selection, and the Mayor be authorised to finalise the terms of agreement with the successful consultant.
Thank you, Councillor Prime. Councillor Keeble.
Thanks, Mayor Nicholas. It's part of doing business in regards to having a recruitment firm assist us with one of our major roles, which is the employment of a CEO on top of the budget after that. So that's, some of our major roles. It's the only time that councillors are involved in any of the staff in regards to their working who's employed. It's just the CEO, and after that, that's their responsibility. So it's really important that we cast the net wide and find the best possible person, and recruitment firms do help in that process. It's not to say that councillors won't be part of, we will all be part of that process. It's just they help us along the way.
Councillor Prime.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As Charlie Bird said, this is councillors obligated to obtain independent advice with this, and it's a process we have to go through. Take this chance to thank Charlie for his work as well, and this is just the next step in the process.
Councillor Forsyth.
Thanks, Mayor. Following on from what Councillor Keeble has just said, this will be on council for me the 4th CEO that I've had as a councillor. So one of the things, and I just want to make this perfectly clear to everyone in the audience tonight, one of the things that councillors do in the background that you don't see, you don't hear about, is we try and work out the best attributes of the incoming CEO. Now, in order to do that, we need to look at our past CEOs, we need to look at where we feel Alpine Shire is going, we need to look at what the current problems are within the Shire, or hiccups, or any bends in the road, and so we will make the decision according to that. Now, there is a selection committee, as Mayor Nicholas has just said. However, all councillors are involved, and if anybody feels that they have got a great idea as to what one of the attributes for a mayor should be, please email me. All right? Sorry, what a CEO should be. Did I say mayor? All right, mayor as well. But definitely the CEO in this instance. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Forsyth. Any further comments from councillors? Question? No. Take this one. Councillor Janus.
Thank you. Are we anticipating a time frame going forward for this process, please?
Affirmative. So if this recommendation is passed tonight, then the successful tenderer will be appointed tomorrow, and there will be, it's 7 to 8 weeks before we have somebody that we make the offer to, and then they will have to provide their current workplace with some sort of notice. It's often 90 days. So we hope to have somebody appointed before Christmas. And just to, while I've got the mic, as I'm good at this, just to pick up from what Councillor Forsyth was talking about, the search consultants will work with councillors to work out those attributes and what's coming up in the future that the CEO would need to be able to manage and respond to. So it will be a very comprehensive process.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I was aware of that, but I just wanted to ensure that our members of the public are aware of that process too. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Janis. Councillor Keeble.
And adding to Councillor Janis's remarks, it's something that we take very serious about this process and finding the right person, and we won't appoint someone until we find the right person. So if we don't find them in the next 7 or 8 weeks, we'll continue to look for the right person. So sometimes that does take a little bit of time.
Thank you, all councillors. Any further comment? Take that one to the vote then. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. The next item is 8.1.3, appointment of an acting Chief Executive Officer. Mr. Bird.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Janis, for that nice segue. So the process can take around 6 months. So I finish in the role in a few weeks' time, and so there'll be when there's a vacancy in the office, council is required to appoint an acting CEO and under legislation. So what we have before us here is a recommendation that Alan Clark be appointed to the position of acting CEO for a period of up to 12 months. Clearly there's a lot of buffer in that, and that the acting CEO be appointed as the Interim Director of Mental Mind Shared Services, and upon the successful appointment of the new CEO, the acting CEO's position will cease. And finally, the Mayor be authorised to finalise the terms of the acting Chief Executive Officer's appointment on behalf of Council.
Thank you, Mr. Bird. Moved Councillor Keeble, seconded Councillor Kelly. Councillor Keeble.
I will just like to thank Charlie Bird for helping in this process. We've had some really good, robust discussions the last couple of weeks about this process, whether it's internal, external, and we're just lucky enough that Alan Clark is someone that we know, and shall he be appointed after the decision tonight. We look forward to working with Alan in the interim until another CEO is appointed.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe the unemployment rate at the moment, national unemployment rate, is circa 4%. Someone might ask me the interest rate in a minute, but I won't remark on that. But I think being realistic about the potential time frame and finding the right person to lead our organisation is incredibly important. And to me, this opportunity provides really good business continuity for our organisation, and also gives us the bandwidth we need to pursue that appointment. So I'm very supportive of this.
Who's Alan Clark?
Madam Mayor. Sorry.
Councillor Janis.
Thank you. I support the recommendation, Mr. Clark, to answer the question from the gallery there. I've worked with Mr. Clark previously. He was a former director at the Wangaratta Council. Very competent man. I've also worked with him on the board of the North East Waste Management Resource. It's NewRig, whatever the group or whatever it is. Anyway, and I've always found him to be very competent and diligent in his duties, and he has had a role with us previously for a short time, I think. And yes, I think he will fill in that void very nicely and be able to work with our staff and councillors.
Mr. Bird.
That's a very good question. So further to what Councillor Janis just said, Alan Clark is a really experienced local government professional. He's an engineer by trade. He's worked as a director at Lockhart Council, Indigo Shire Council, and more recently at the rural city of Wangaratta. He's effectively semi-retired right now, and he does work up in Queensland, then goes and travels, etc. We're really lucky that we have someone like Alan with his background, experience, and his knowledge of Alpine Shire Council. So some of you may be aware, I think it was about 16 months ago, so I unexpectedly went on leave for about 6 weeks when my father died, and I went back to help with harvest on the farm. The rural city of Wangaratta were very generous in seconding Alan to Alpine Shire Council to help us with the continuity then. So Will Jeremy acted as CEO during that period, and Alan Clark stepped in as the acting director of assets. So Alan is familiar with Alpine Shire Council. He's familiar with our council as well, and I think we're really lucky to have someone, again, with Alan's background, experience and knowledge of the Alpine Shire, and to effectively step in and, it's effectively a caretaker period, and then, the rest of the organisation remains stable. There's no flow-on effect of people acting up, and we have, business continuity and stability within the organisation and for our community as well.
Thank you, Mr. Bird. Councillor Forsyth.
Thank you, CEO, for that very good summary. Just as a follow-up to that, and I'm glad that Councillor Janice brought that up, and I'm glad that the question actually came from the floor, because what I was going to say is, after the decision tonight, I feel that there should be some kind of a bio or a resume or something, whatever, put in the local paper and also onto our website, just introducing Alan to the wider community.
Yes, we will issue a media release, and also Alan's information will be uploaded to the website when he becomes the acting CEO, and mine will be removed.
Thank you, Mr. Baird. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With Alan coming on board, as mentioned already, there's experience within the Alpine Shire, which, being locals is very important with where we are. But just to reiterate, we have a very strong leadership team as well, and we do this together. So it's not somebody coming in and dictating what's happening. It's a whole team, and we have all the faith in our, all of our leadership as well. So it's all of us collectively. It's not just him making decisions on his own, just to reiterate.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Any right of reply, further comment? No. Take this one to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. We move on to 8.2, Director of Assets. Reports. 8.2.1, Dinner Plane Bus Fuel Surcharge. Mr. Jeremy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this report relates to a request that Councillors received to apply a fuel surcharge to the operation of the 2022 Dinner Plane to Mount Hotham bus service. So this request has been received because of the extraordinary increase in the diesel fuel price that we've seen over the last period of time as a result of the what's going on around the globe. The contract that we've got at the moment for the delivery of the Dinner Plane bus service has another year to run, so that was an extension at a council meeting, so they've got the upcoming winter season. Priced into their contract is a reimbursement for diesel at a rate of $1.37 per litre. So when the supplier, which is Alpine Spirit, they went to get a quote from a bulk supplier, so they got quoted at $2.17 per litre for diesel. And they approached council and they advised that they were unable to absorb that increase in the diesel price whilst still running, essentially running at a profit and allowing their business to be sustainable. So what they've pitched to council is a proposal that at the end of the season, they'll supply receipts for council for the actual price of the diesel that's been purchased through the season, and they've asked that council reimburses for the price that they've paid above that $1.37 that's in the contract that they've signed up to with council. Recommendation this evening is that council accepts that fuel surcharge request. What's also worth noting is that the same request has been put to the Mount Hotham Resort Management Board, and the Resort Management Board has also been supportive of that fuel surcharge.
Thank you, Councillor Janice, who's moved that, and seconded by Councillor Hughes. Councillor Janice.
Look, the company that's providing that service, Alpine Spirit Coaches, have provided an extraordinary service to the community up there over the last few years, and have also done a fair bit of capital outlay for their buses. and transport. I think it's a fair deal. It's an open and transparent deal with them. Receipts to be provided, and we can cross-check that at any given time. And I think it's important to have that bus service operating with good vehicles and running efficiently. So I support it.
Thank you, Councillor Dennis. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No one liked the fuel hike. So, this just makes perfect sense to be able to grow and evolve with the change in time. So I'm in full support, but this bus service isn't just used for people that are staying up there for 1 or 2 nights. This is also transporting people who are living in Dinnerplain and working in Hotham and back and forth, and the safety of them and running that continuity of the services up there is very crucial for with all the changes that have happened to the snow season over the last couple of years. So yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Keeble.
So I was pointing to Councillor Forsyth, but I do have a point. So it's not like other bus companies can come and ask for surcharge fuel cost incurred purchase, because the Dinnerplain to Hotham is a bus service run that is a Shire contract, and it often comes out of the Dinnerplain surcharge special rate, which we mentioned earlier in the meeting. So my question is to Director Jeremy about the cost of this. Will it come out of that surcharge, or where will the money for this one come from?
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. So this is one of the special services that is delivered in Dinnerplain under the special rate. So effectively the special services and the costs incurred in Dinnerplain are ring-fenced, as is the income. So this cost here, estimated at $16,500 if the fuel price was to have stayed at that to $2.17, and that will come out of the reserve, the Dinnerplain reserve.
That's good, thank you. I just wanted to explain to people that it's a bus run, if you like. That's not a commercial bus run in regards to it's paid for from the Dinnerplain special rate. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a follow-up question, Mr. Jeremy. I get this service, is bookended. It is a service to the Dinnerplain community and covered in that way. I think the other thing in the resort is also the principle of user pays. Can you confirm that the ticketing, the fees, for return ticket and things have been reviewed by the bus company in preparation for this season?
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. That's correct. So actually at the council meeting that the contract was extended, it was late last year, I think November. We did review the ticket prices. The ticket prices hadn't been increased for a number of years, and council agreed at that point in time to a recommendation to increase those ticket prices at that time. So to answer your question, yes, there has been a recent review of ticket prices.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Jeremy. That might reflect my newness on the council as well.
Any further comments or questions? We'll take that one to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Next item is a response to a petition for a footpath extension on Mummery Road, Myrtleford. Mr. Jeremy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the purpose of this report, as noted by Madam Mayor, is to respond to a petition for a proposed footpath extension on Mummery Road in Myrtleford. So Council received a petition for a footpath extension on the 5th of April, and this had 83 signatures. And what it was requested was, we the undersigned request Alpinestar Council install a path along Mummery Road, Myrtleford, from the existing footpath at the corner of Bird Avenue and Mummery Road up to Tarrangower Court. We believe this needs to be completed as a matter of priority to ensure pedestrians, particularly school children, can safely walk up and down this road to school. And the petition noted a number of issues as being the current safety issues for this section of the road. They included a narrow road with no curb or shoulder, trees right up to the edge of the road, which are impeding the sight lines for vehicles and users of the road, a 60 km/h speed limit, blind corners on the road, and an increased number of vehicles over the years, including pedestrians, bike users, as there's been further subdivision up in the estates up to towards the top of Mummery Road. The team in council has assessed this request. So there's two things we've done. One is our maintenance team has done an immediate assessment of this road, because there are some actions that we can take immediately to improve some of these safety issues that have been flagged, predominantly looking at removal of vegetation where that's impeding sight lines. So where you're coming around a corner and there are currently some trees very close to the edge of the road that are impeding sight lines, a vehicle can't see very clearly what's around the corner. We're proposing to have those trees and that vegetation cut back and removed where we can safely. We're also engaging in a further survey to look at the speed limits on the road and whether that's appropriate speed limit for that road. The third action that we've taken immediately, we've had some feedback about speeding. So the posted speed limit is 60 kilometres an hour, and we've heard anecdotally that people do a lot higher than that. So we've provided that feedback to Vic Roads, and that's a policing matter for them to take up. So that's the short-term assessment. Longer term, what's been requested here is a footpath. It's a pretty substantial length of road that would require a footpath. According to the petition, it's about 1.8 kilometres. Somewhere in the region of $350,000 to $500,000 to deliver a footpath of that length. So that for council would be a pretty significant capital project. If any of you follow our annual budget process, some of the council meetings, you'll know that we're delivering one of the largest capital works programs that council's ever delivered. Due to a lot of external funding we've been successful receiving. So it would be very challenging for council at this stage to take on an additional capital project of that nature during, with our current workload that we've got on. So what we're proposing, as per the recommendation, is to start the process. So really to start doing some design, some scoping and some costing to allow us to better understand what it would cost and what it would take to deliver that footpath extension in order to prepare us, council officers, when we head into the budget process for next year, to be able to prioritise that footpath against others that are in the waiting list, and then make a recommendation to council for council to consider during the budget process next year. So the recommendations that are provided there, we note the petition that we received. Prior to the 30th of June, we'll prune and remove roadside vegetation to the degree that we're able to in order to make an improvement to the sightlines views of the road. And then during the upcoming year, we'll complete scoping, design and costing for the proposed footpath extension, which will put us in a position for next financial year to be able to inform the draft budget with the outcome of that work. And then the final recommendation is, of course, we'll advise the proponent of the petition of what we're proposing.
Moved, Councillor Forsyth. Seconded, Councillor Janus. Councillor Forsyth.
Thank you. Mr Jeremy, through you, Mayor. The remedial works, or the works quickly to be done, will it be some form of a footpath or not, or just sight lines?
Thank you, Councillor Forsyth. We're not proposing at this stage to deliver a footpath as part of the short-term works. It's purely to address some of the issues which are causing challenges for people with blind corners and being able to see other users of the road. So in order for us to deliver even a preliminary footpath or a gravel footpath still requires us to do a full assessment. I think as we've reflected in the past, it sounds very straightforward putting in a new footpath, but what we've found historically is they're very complex. There's a lot of interaction with services, with existing vegetation, with rights that some of the neighbours sometimes have over sections of the verge. So they're complex projects. They sound easy to deliver, but they're not.
Okay, I'm very familiar with the road because I do actually walk along it quite often. There are one or two spots where it would be quite easy to stick something on the side of the road which would constitute maybe a footpath of some description. Not saying it's going to be paved, sealed or anything else, even just a gravel towpath or whatever, which would, especially around a couple of the very tight bends where the road is very narrow. So I hope that is considered in when the engineers go out and actually have a look at the site properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Janus. Councillor Forsyth, Councillor Janus.
Yes, thanks. I'm too familiar with that section of road, and it's an estate that's gone gangbusters up that way, and there are a number of young families who utilise that road, that's for sure. And this matter came up, I brought it before council officers a couple of years ago now at least. and I'm pleased now that the public have made a petition of this. It's also a road that could be used as an access road for the pine plantations at the rear there, and it's also heavily used by recreational vehicles, motorbikes and four-wheel drivers going up into the pine forest area. That whole section of Myrtleford is increasing as we go up Mummery Road. On the left there's plans for possible subdivisions up there. On the right-hand side there's new subdivisions gone in, and there are a number of tracks and trails that may well interlink with that footpath. So I think that by having it on our list for future works and prioritising it accordingly is the right thing to do. And I know that the communities here in the Kiwa Valley had a similar problem with Simmons Creek Road and the footpath going up there, and that was quite a complex project as well. There are many complexities with these things. It's not just a matter of putting in a footpath, and that's when I think we should be quite cognizant of the fact when we do have new subdivisions and developments going forward that we pre-think what we're going to do for infrastructure there, and footpaths, particularly in this day and age, are very important to have down in the first instance, because they will predominantly be hopefully new families, children, and we should be planning ahead. And I also think that the developers should contribute to some of that infrastructure in the first instance, so that it doesn't come necessarily straight back to the ratepayer after other people have done reasonably well out of their subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Janis. Any further comment? Take that one to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. We now move on to section 8.3, where we have Director of Corporate Performance, Ms Havercroft, and 8.3.1, planning application numbers 19 Tawonga Crescent.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this proposal, also the subject of lots of questions on notice, is a proposal for building and works in association with the golf course, clubhouse redevelopment and shedding, and the use of buildings and works for a public place of assembly. The proposed clubhouse redevelopment is set back 6.195 from the wall, as discussed, metres from Tawonga Crescent, and approximately 15.8 metres from 2 Mountain Avenue, and more than 30 metres from every other lot boundary. Following an initial assessment of the application, concerns were raised regarding the use of the proposed community pavilion forming part of the clubhouse development not being used in an ancillary manner to the existing golf course. In response to this, the application was amended to include the new use of place of assembly. Included in the application, there was a provision for 63 on-site parking spaces and a proposal that there would be 20 on-street parking spaces. At the moment, there is an informal parking area that would be extended to include cycle parking, an EV charging point, and a disabled bay. Whilst conditional approval was given from the internal engineering teams within Alpine Shire, it's felt that all those parking spaces should be contained within the land of the Mount Beauty Golf Club. Particularly with regards to the EV charging point, which would become quite complicated if it was on an on-street site. Who can use it? How do they use it? Etc. So that forms part of how the amended application came in. There's lots in the report about the detailed objections that came in. There was 23 objections in total, and the assessing planning officer went through each of those to determine whether they would have any impact on the application itself and whether there would be changes to the application as a result. Actually, when those submissions came in, in addition to the place of assembly, the applicant did make significant amendments to their application, and it was, like I mentioned before, it was that application that they then asked us to assess and present this evening. There's no order of significance to the way that the 23 objections have been listed under the public notification section in the application, and I'm hoping that everyone's had a read, so I won't work through all of them, but some points I think of particular significance are that there was quite a lot of concern about hours of operation and the increased traffic, and part of the conditions that are set out, and if the application was to be approved, are a noise management plan and an amenity plan to take into consideration some of the impacts that have been highlighted by residents in the local area and have objected on those bases. So the hours of operation, how long a liquor licence might be permitted for, etc., would form part of that assessment, which would take place should it go through this evening. Additionally, if they wanted to make changes to their current licence for liquor, that would require a separate planning application, so isn't the subject of the application that's here this evening. I don't know if it would be useful for the councillors to go into any more detail on that, given the questions on notice that we've already had and the briefings that have taken place. So I'm going to run straight to the recommendation. So the recommendation this evening is that a notice of decision to grant a planning permit be issued for building and works in association with a golf course, clubhouse redevelopment and shedding, and use in buildings and works for place of assembly in accordance with the conditions outlined in Appendix 8.3.1a. And the following summarised reasons: the proposal generally meets the relevant provisions of the state and local planning policy framework, special use zone Schedule 6, bushfire management overlay, and then a series of particular provisions set out in the planning scheme, and lastly, the decision guidelines in clauses 65.01. So
moved by Councillor Kiwa, seconded by Councillor Prime. Councillor Kiwa.
Thanks, Mayor Nicholas. I'd like to thank everyone who the officers for the work that they've done on this to date so far, and for the people in Toowoomba Crescent and others that in the other avenue, for taking part in the planning meetings that we've had, listening to voices on both sides. I note that some of the objectives when we were at the planning meetings were like supportive of the building, like they're not unsupportive of the building, and I thought that was a really great way to start the conversation. They're not against the building. It's really about where it's located and some amenity issues with the sound and noise that we've heard already. There's been some other questions that we got recently about the colour scheme of the roof and a few things like that, but that's in the building permit. This is a planning permit at the moment, so some of those things can still be worked through. Is that my understanding?
So there was particularly a reference to the colour of the roof. They're proposing grey, and it's been asked whether it could be green. That would be a condition of the planning permit, and it's not currently one of the conditions that sits in here. So if that was something people wanted to change, that would need to happen through a motion this evening.
Okay, let me settle on that, and I think I've got right reply at the end, so we'll have some further discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Councillor Prime.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll reiterate what Councillor Keeble said. Thank you, everyone, for emailing, speaking to us down the street, attending the planning forums. I've had some really good discussions with people, and it's good that we're approachable and you can have these chats with us and really hash out your concerns as well. I think if you talk to anyone, this concept is generally well supported in the community, something like this would be an asset. Hats off to the planning team. Anyone who's got an agenda in their laps tonight can see how extensive the detail is. There's quite a few pages there, and obviously we've worked through some things already in questions earlier. Just to sort of go through a few things, as part of it, there is substantial... Sorry, I've got a few notes here. There are substantial conditions placed on this. Again, if you've got an agenda in your laps, you can have a look at them there. And when the planning department says that, you know, something someone has objected to is irrelevant, it's not that we don't agree that you can say that. It's just that we really have to take things on their merit against the planning criteria and work through that. So we have to be really quite stringent with working through that. The planning department has to. So just for example here, additional plans that, if this was approved tonight, they would have to show includes landscaping, size and siting of external lighting, traffic impact assessment report, acoustic assessment report, venue management plan, as was mentioned by Ms Havercroft earlier. It's quite substantial. If you have a read through the list there, that the conditions are attached to this. And I appreciate again everyone who has submitted an objection or had a chat to me about this, and all of the councillors. And I'd just like to reassure everyone that just because Councillor Kiwa and I are from the Kiwa Valley and the rest of the councillors are not, we do take these planning decisions very seriously. And when we get a lot of people emailing us and contacting us, you know, we're already got our flags up that this is a significant issue to the community and people are really invested in the outcome. And if I think majority of us were at the planning forum, not all of us, and when we attend something like that and other councillors aren't there, we always feed back to them what's come out of that meeting and any other separate meetings we've had as well, because Councillor Keeble and I have attended a meeting that the rest of the councillors weren't at. So we feed this back to the other councillors, and we really, I consider us a fairly conscientious bunch. We really try and stay on top of these things and get a good read on both sides of the argument, have a really good understanding before we vote on something like this.
Thank you, Councillor Prime. Councillor Forsyth.
Thanks, Mayor. Just to bring up something that Councillor Keeble brought up, and perhaps he's reserving his right for this question, but I'll bring it up anyway. Ms Havercroft, the roof colour is decided within this planning permit and not in the building permit. Is that what you've just said? Is that correct?
That's my understanding. So
Right.
in the planning assessment that took place, they've stipulated the colour of the roof that they would like to use, and that's
Right.
formed part of the assessment.
So if, for whatever reason, the proponents, the applicant, decided to change the colour of the roof after this, if this goes through, they decide to change the colour of the roof, would that be feasible or possible at the building permit stage?
Yes.
Thank you. Good. I can understand why people would probably want green if they're sitting above it, because green would just meld into the rest of it look like an infinity thing. Alternatively, even a light colour would probably be better for thermal reasons as opposed to a dark colour, but it's not my building, so I haven't made a decision on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Forsyth. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor, and I really appreciate the approaches I've had in the community, both really respectful, but also, been pretty clear on what the concerns or what the aspirations are. More of a point than a question. I think the golf club committee's been really tenacious so far and focused on progressing their ambition here, and I do think a facility like this could be great for Mount Beauty. A lot of perseverance that we needed ahead, depending on today's outcome and particularly around funding. And I guess for me, the classification of place of assembly also opens the doors to what this facility can be used for. So if the committee is successful, if the golf club is successful, I'd be encouraging them to work closely with their neighbours, to think creatively about what else this facility could be used for and how the neighbours could still benefit from this change to becoming a place of assembly, and particularly as you progress to seek funding opportunities, it's really important to show a lot of opportunities that a facility like this could bring. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Councillor Janus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My apologies to people present that I didn't get to the forum. I was otherwise engaged. But I want to thank Councillor Prime and Councillor Kiwa for keeping us well and truly informed as to the conversations that took place there. I've previously visited the golf club on invitation in previous terms of government, of council, and I suppose I go back many years now when I was collecting mushrooms on there with my father and Mr. Frank Homolka. Some of you may remember Frank, who had a love of mushrooms. But it is a beautiful facility, and there has a lot of potential there for Mount Beauty. And since the loss of the Workmen's Club, which was the popular and probably only place in town where you could have a function, then this is sort of modernising. I believe it's modernising the town and what it can offer. But I'm also very conscious of the people who live close by, and I do take note of if I had to live next door, and sometimes I've been referred to as a grumpy old man. The doof mimusic or whatever emanating from that facility could be quite unnerving, and you might have to have another glass of wine just to get to sleep. But nevertheless, I think looking at it as on an overall picture, I think that the facility in itself is an advantage to the community. And there are still many more hoops to get through to come to the end stage. But this is the first stage in the process, and I've got confidence that the community of the golf club and surrounds will work together to get the best outcome for them all. And there's got to be a little bit of give and take in everything. And if the colour of the roof is a little bit different, well, it could be a white roof. Council fee will, depending on how much snow's up on the hill for the season. So there might be a light show on the roof or something to change the colour. But anyway, there are my comments in relation to this matter. I do support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Janice, and that was a good segue to Mr. Bird to clarify.
Councillor Forsyth, you were referring to the colours and Ms. Havercroft. So condition 18 of the proposed permit is that external materials to buildings, including the roof, must be constructed materials of muted colours to the satisfaction of the responsible authority. So I think that supports what Ms. Havercroft was saying earlier. No materials having a highly reflective surface shall be used, so maybe not the white, Councillor Janice. For the purpose of this condition, highly reflective includes but is not limited to unpainted zinc alone.
Thank you, Mr. Bird, and Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can't tell you how many phone calls we've had back and forth between ourselves as well as meetings about this, and completely understandable of the objections that have come in place here. I'm just wanting to make a clear note that if this was a different zoned area, then the restrictions could be less in terms of building height and things like that, and you could end up having, reading through, if it was a general residential, you could go up to 11 metres with the story of your house. So keeping in mind that, the restrictions are in place for purpose. Also, in terms of public amenity, the golf club will be under the same regulations as everybody else. If they're too noisy, there can be complaints made, and they will have restrictions put on them in ways of that. In terms of doof music, as Councillor Janice refers to, it's the same as what residential people have as well. There's time frames that you can do those in. So just because, if it is supported tonight and built as per the application, then, you know, they're not just allowed to go and do everything and anything that they feel like it just because the building's there. They do have the same restrictions as anybody else as well. So just being mindful of those type of considerations. And thank you to everyone who's felt comfortable to approach us so far, and the information, we've thrown so many questions at our team, and they've come back and they've answered them. And if they couldn't answer them on the day, they came back and answered pretty quickly to us. So thank you to the team as well for all of the hard work put in with the back and forth that we've given you.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Keeble.
Thanks, Mayor Nicholas. As you can hear, there's a lot of discussion about this particular planning decision tonight. There's a question I will ask is, so just so everyone is aware, and probably you're already aware, but so it's a planning permit for a building. The golf club then needs to be successful or for grant funding or find the money to build the building. So at the moment it's not a given. My question is, how long does the planning permit last for before it has to be built? Okay. Sorry to give you that on notice. Shall I keep going? No.
I think it will be in the notes. It usually. So they are planning. Here we go. Expiry. This permit will expire if one of the following circumstances is applied: the development is not started within 2 years of the date of this permit. The development is not completed within 4 years. Sorry, not days. That would have been impossible. The development is not completed within 4 years of the date of this permit. The use is not started within 4 years of the date of this permit. So 2 or 4 years.
Thank you. That's good to know. I know that people can always ask for an extension of the time frame, but just so people are aware what the current time frame is. In regards to the paint, the roof colour, I'm comfortable with what CEO Charlie Bird read out in regards to the colour. So, you know, in all these sort of interactions, there's a give and take. I think Councillor Janice talked about the give and take, and there's anyone that comes out of negotiations, if everyone's slightly unhappy, then that's the right type of negotiation. So I know the golf club committee have been great. They've given up things. The ratepayers of the residents in there have asked for things, and some of those things have happened, some haven't. It's a difficult one. So I'll leave the vote at that.
Thank you, Councillor Keeble, and they were very profound words at the end of your last access to the microphone. So we'll take this one to the vote. All those in favour? That will be unanimous. Thank you, and thank you everybody who's put in. Next agenda item is number 9, informal meetings of councillors. The recommendation is that the summary of informal meetings of councillors for March and April 2022 be received. And for those who don't have an agenda in front of them, there's 3 briefing sessions that we've attended. It's moved by Councillor Hughes and seconded by Councillor Forsyth. All those in favour? Thank you. The next item is item 10, presentation of reports by delegates. This is an opportunity for councillors to talk about things that they've done as a council representative, and Councillor Forsyth has a report. Thank you.
I was a delegate at a conference in Melbourne last Friday, and I apologise to councillors that I have not got a report to you yet, simply because the agenda and all of the accompanying bits and pieces from the conference haven't been downloaded yet, so you'll be receiving that next week. It was to do with the Greenhouse Gas Alliance and some very interesting things coming out. A majority of the stuff is more related to city dwellers as opposed to us country folk. However, there were some relevant things in there as well. So that will be coming to councillors next week.
Thank you, Councillor Forsyth. Any other? Thank you, Councillor Janice.
Thanks. Yesterday I went to a workshop with the Alpine Resilience Committee. That's a committee of council, and there were representatives here. Is it Kitty's here tonight? There she is. Was also present representing Kiwa Valley area through with the neighbourhood house. Very important committee, I believe, and it deals with community resilience in so many ways, not only just in emergencies, but other aspects of our life. And the committee is very well connected. There's another workshop next Monday, so I'll be attending that one. I'm currently the chair of that committee, and I'll report back to council and then also report up to the Municipal Emergency Management Committee, which the chair sits on that committee as well. So and there's a lady up the back who also has done a lot of work, Beth, and that's looking at the profiles of each of our communities and what our special needs are, because we're not all the same. We all have our different needs, and we have our different demographics within those communities. So some documentation has been produced, and they're a living document, so that it needs to be updated from now on all the time. So this is an initiative from council as well to ensure that we are looking after our communities as best we can in times of crisis. And you know, every 3 or 4 years something comes up in one of our valleys, whether it be a flood or a fire, or as we've had the pandemic. So these are documents and networks that we're establishing on behalf of with council to ensure our communities are best looked after as we can. So community resilience, shared responsibility. So it's not just all us, it's people out there looking after yourselves as well. So something that we're working on, and I'll report back to council, and Councillor Hughes is also on that committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dennis. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I put my hand up for this committee when I first was elected a councillor, and the learning process has been amazing. The community groups and all the groups involved in this committee, I'm just blown away with the level of support and enthusiasm to make sure that when, not if, but when these things do occur, we are put in the right position moving forward. So I'm really excited to continue to work with this committee to form the strategic goals that we need to move forward for all of our communities, and making note that each of our communities require different things as well. So that's one of mine, and the other one is Alpine Children's Services. So our tiny humans are looked after very well in the Alpine Shire here. One of the growing concerns across the board is that there's lack of workforce, which there is everywhere. And with that means that there might be restrictions with how many places can be put in certain classrooms, which means that there's people that are missing out, and there are wait lists, and well aware of that. If there are people who are accredited to work in this space and have thought about it, then it's definitely worth putting up a hand, even if it is on a part-time capacity, in order to help out on these services, because the staff are stretched. And it means that if people can't put their children into childcare, then our economy is also losing out, because there are some people are needing to return to work for financial reasons, but we also have crucial members of our community that are in higher jobs, like the mental health or in the health sector and things like that, that are also needing those childcare. So I'm really just putting it out there that, you know, this is one of the things that continues to pop up, is that we just need more staff, so that the ones that we have aren't burning out as well.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Any other reports by delegates? Thank you. We'll move on to general business, and I will start from my right. Councillor Janis, general business.
I reserve my right for the moment, thanks.
Your microphone is still on. Thank you. Councillor Forsyth.
Nothing tonight, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Prime.
No, nothing from me, but thank you everyone for showing up tonight. Really appreciate it.
Councillor Hughes.
It is. It's lovely to have so many of you here. We came in onto council in, COVID restrictions, so to see so many faces is really lovely, and we're not, the Brady Bunch on Zoom anymore, so it's wonderful. I wanted to, it's kind of come off the back of the planning application that we've been spoken to from community members about, and it's that if in your local area you've got something to say about a planning application and you don't necessarily want to talk to the councillors in your area on it for personal reasons, that's completely understandable too, and I just wanted to put it out there that we're all here, as Councillor Prime mentioned, we're all across it. So please feel comfortable to come and speak to one of us that might not necessarily be in your location, so that you might not feel as exposed to do so. Just to put that out there. One of the things that I continue to say is that our community groups, unfortunately, are an ageing population, and our generation, and I'm going to put my hand up and say, our generation is busy. We're always busy. We've always got something happening, and to put your hand up for volunteer groups is probably becoming less and less. So what I'm urging, I'm a volunteer, to put that out there, but to really reach out to our generation and even the youth, to be able to come into the community groups, because I feel like there is so much that can be learnt through the generational differences in these groups, and if our ageing community groups continue to age and no one's popping in there, then there's going to be so many services lost, and I don't see that being a value add for our area. So I'm just urging people, it could be an hour of your day, your week, your month, your year. I feel like I'm singing a song there. But I really am wanting people to just put themselves forward, grab a friend, do it as well if you're more comfortable to do it that way, but just to pop themselves out. Mental health is still a very big growing concern in our areas. We might be, it's, as we said, it's lovely to have everybody here, but COVID is still a real thing. There are still restrictions. There are still people that are limited to where they can go and what they can do and where they can work. So be kind and talk to one another, and if you feel that there's somebody in need, there are so many services at hand, some people just don't know where to look. So I really just want to reiterate that if you know that you can help someone, even if it's sending through a pamphlet or just having a general discussion, that it is still a very real concern in our communities. And the last one is, when you see something that's not quite going right, or you see something that has been put forward by council that is just awesome and works really well, tell us, good and bad. We do get a lot of feedback on things that aren't working or things that are broken, which is really good. We can't be everywhere all the time, so for somebody to take a photo and send in an email means that it can be something that can be looked at or addressed. It might already be in the pipelines as well, and that feedback can be given back to you as well. But it's really, really nice to hear the good things that council are doing, because there are 10 times more good things that are happening for our community than there is bad. So I think we just need to turn our focus sometimes onto what it is that's working well, so that we can continue to support those types of things that are working well in our community and build and grow that moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Keeble.
Thanks, Mayor Nicholas. I'm glad Councillor Janis has reserved his right, that Councillor Forsyth and Councillor Prime didn't have many, because I've got the next half an hour. No, just kidding. Right, thanks for coming, everyone. That has been mentioned, but this meeting was, I think, scheduled in March, I believe, and due to some people having COVID we had to go back to the Brady Bunch. So it is great to be here in Mount Beauty, Toowoomba South, Toowoomba, Upper Kiwa Valley tonight. And I think for a lot of our councillors who are new, it's really the first time there's been a gallery, really. We've had other meetings where maybe there's 2 or 3 people, and I see a few faces in here that we see over in Bright all the time, and we're really thankful, and in Myrtleford, that people do come over. So well done to the Upper Kiwa Valley community. We really love coming here, and I'd like to recommend we do it twice a year at least. Anyway, we do once a year at the moment, but it'd be nice to maybe do some more. But it is great to see a lot of people here. It makes it a much richer experience. I might start with budget submissions. When the budget submissions file, are they done? No. So we are in the. Are they done in regards to community budget submission timeframe?
Still open at the moment.
I think it's still open. Just to remind people that if you have a thought about ways that the Shire can spend ratepayers' dollars and you have a great idea, make sure you get online, have a look at the budget and put in your submission, because you can put that submission in, so they're still open at the moment. And maybe while I'm talking, someone can find the date when they're closed and we can mention the date. That'd be great, please. I want to thank the Mount Beauty Chamber of Commerce the other day, myself and Councillor Prime, last night, not the other day. They held, and many other Chamber of Commerces around the state held like a social gathering night for businesses, just to talk about what's happened the last few years, but also to have a presenter to have people look forward to what they can do from what they've learnt over the last few years. And it was a great time for the small business owners who were there last night, just to unwind and be in the same space, a bit like we haven't been in the same space for a couple of years. So just want to thank them. Toowoomba Better Places and Toowoomba Caravan Park, considering we are in the one we're in over in this side, and there's probably a few people from that area, I just wonder if we can have an update, either from Director Jeremy. Is that possible? Or is that, have I got the wrong director?
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. I'm happy to update on Alpine Better Places Toowoomba. So we've presented to Council a few months back. We've now completed the purchase, or Council's completed its purchase of the Toowoomba Scout Hall, the land that it sits on, so that's allowed us to kick the process back off. The consultant that we used previously is re-engaged, and they're coming back out on the 19th of May, so pretty soon you'll start seeing some information about the next round of engagement to start looking at what are the options and to start addressing some of the issues that were left over from last time we did the engagement. I'll hand over to Helen to talk about the Toowoomba Caravan Park.
So the Toowoomba Caravan Park is scheduled to be reopened towards the end of this year. So it's obviously been closed for quite a long time. We've been working through a series of capital works and also trying to work through the lease and who the operator might be. We are anticipating at the moment that the opening time for Toowoomba Caravan Park will be the 28th of October. It's a slight change from where we've previously communicated. We were hoping that we would be in a position to open for September, but the working through the lease just hasn't made that possible, I'm afraid.
Thanks for the quick update. If you have other questions about those two projects, I'm sure they can be answered after the meeting as well, either ourselves or the directors, if that's possible. Did you have something else to add? Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I just wanted to give you an update on the budget submissions too. So the closure for budget submissions is 5 o'clock on the 12th of May.
Perfect. 9 days. Great. Thank you for that. Thanks. Frida's Lane is a lane in our area that most people will be familiar with. Is used by landowners in the area, plus it's used by other stakeholders. I'm just wondering if we can have a look at Frida's Lane in regards to maybe the blackberry issue in there and some of the... It's very difficult to walk and drive. I'm just wondering whether Council can engage with the landholders and stakeholders at some stage on that lane, if that's possible. Someone's to be noted there. And planning, I think planning was raised a little bit by Councillor Hughes, and if this is statewide and nationwide. I was in Canberra over the recent holidays talking to some people from the bigger Shire, and the wait on planning decisions is a long way because obviously of the fires they've had over there and the floods, and I'm just putting it out there that the planning department in our Shire is working as hard as it can to get planning decisions out. It's difficult. There's a lot of decisions going on, and there's a shortfall of planners across the whole of Australia and people that work in that industry. So just be patient. I know it's difficult, and I know you need your answers tomorrow. yesterday, and we hear a lot from ratepayers. Oh, I can't get anything out of them, you know, and all. And you know, the director of say it again. Corporate is well aware and working through those issues. So I just want to put that statement out there that we are really aware of that, but I do want to back end that with it's a national issue. It's not just an issue here. And I think the last one I had here, the last one was the next time we meet, there will be a new federal, maybe a new federal government, depending if it's hung and they're still sort of working things out. For those people, you know, most people here will probably vote in the room, but for the other people that are listening, your vote's really important. Remember to vote, and all the best to everyone who's standing. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. Just two items. Firstly, the Mount Beauty Running Festival, 21st of May. Great, diverse bunch of events to go in there. Fun run, fun walk, and some more challenging things to think about. So get that in the calendar if it's not already. And secondly, just a thank you to the council officers who make this happen in terms of varying our location for the council meetings, the PA system and the cameras and everything we want to do to project it. So thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. I have a few things. I wanted to congratulate the people from Neighbourhood House. I know it's been building for a long time and growing into the incredible resource that it is, but I was fortunate enough to be part of opening the conference room not so long ago, and I had a tour through it, and we were fed, and it was fabulous food and passionate people and really great things happening there, and it's because it's such a great community over here and you work together well. So well done. I also just wanted to pick up on the budget submission opportunities. So even if what you're putting forward doesn't get in the budget for this year, it gets into our pipeline, and which makes it more likely to get into the budget in the future. So don't hold back because you think we're going to be really busy, which we are. Picking up again from Councillor Keeble's talk. The final thing, I think everyone's covered the other things I wanted to say really well, but the final thing I wanted to say is that this is the last ordinary council meeting for our CEO, Mr. Bird, and I wanted to say what a terrific job you've done for the time you've been with us, particularly as CEO, and how you rose to the occasion for the bushfire and also during COVID, and demonstrated incredible care for our community and the staff, and kept the organisation running and performing incredibly well. We're so well thought of across the state because of what this tiny little council with a tiny little budget can achieve, and which demonstrates some of Charlie's other strengths, which are asset development and advocacy, which are also really important skills for the job he's going to, which looks really exciting. And no doubt we'll be working with Charlie. Will that say what the job is yet? Yeah. Yep. He'll be working with Beyond Housing, which is a social housing development agency, and Charlie will be working in Wangaratta. So I dare say he'll be talking to us about places that we might like to build some houses or help build some houses. So thank you very much for everything that you've done over the years, and I'd like us all to put together our hands and thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bird. And I've just been reminded that I haven't offered Councillor Janice a spot in general business. Would you like to?
After listening to everybody else speak, I've run out of topics because I think everything has been covered. And I'll make an admission that last council meeting at the Myrtleford Senior Citizens was far worse than here. So I've got to congratulate you on your facility here, and ours does the sound quality and it just has not improved every time we go there. It just doesn't get much better. So well done, Ian, and I love the artwork there. There's a lot of work in that, and Ms. Havercroft was wanting to have a consultation in who did that and the history behind it. So Kitty or somebody, I'm sure, will be able to do that, or Mary, to ingratiate her with all that knowledge that you have. So thank you, and thank you to everyone for coming out this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Janice. And Mr Bird.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for those generous words, and thank you everyone for coming today. It's quite nice to finish on a meeting like this with people. I think when I was appointed CEO, it was in this very room just about 5 years ago. So as an update, it may come as some surprise to me. You may have read that I was finishing in July, but today I refer to May. So what was interesting is I advised Council, 6 weeks ago now, maybe 2 months ago now, that I would be seeking an extension and looking for a different work-life balance. And what's interesting is sometimes when you stop and you look up, you see opportunities. And I didn't expect to go to another job. I expected to return to my business. And there's an opportunity there with Beyond Housing to be their Chief Development and Asset Officer. And I inquired, and one thing led to another, and one thing's become acutely important to me. So I guess just how important housing is, and like we all know about the shortage of housing, and so being able to have such a rewarding role where delivering housing, homes for homeless people and people in need, literally 6 minutes walk from my house, is incredibly appealing. So that's why I'll be finishing in a few weeks' time and moving to that role there. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank our council. For the past, it's been 7 years. It's over 7 years now I've worked with council. It's incredibly rewarding role, both as a director and as a CEO. There's not many roles like this where you get to work so closely with the community, work through a whole range of challenges, opportunities, and there's the bushfires, there's COVID, and being in a role in a way you can support your community so directly, and that's been great. It's working with the people in the organisation. We've got a great team, and we punch well above our weight to deliver as much as we can for our community with what the resources that we have. And finally, the community as well. I've worked with a number of you on a number of matters over the years, and it's been really good, really enjoyable. So thank you very much for being so respectful. And I guess probably just looking towards the future, so the recruitment, I talk about this as, this is the best local government CEO role in Victoria, incredible location, we've got a great council, great team, and, great community. So I've got no doubt it's going to be highly competitive, and the next CEO will be well suited to the role and serve our community so well. Thank you.
May I suggest, Mayor Nicholas, that at the end of the meeting we remove the screen there and stand up there with Charlie and have a little photo and send that to him as a reminder.
Every Tuesday?
Yep.
Good idea. Thank you, Mr. Bird. The next item is motions for which notice has previously been given, and there are none. Item 13 follows reception and reading of petitions, and we do have a petition. Mr. Jeremy, do you take that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the petition we've received is that Council notes and receives a petition to stop the plans for the Alpine Better Places Harrietville project and to start proper consultation for the new plans. So a report will be tabled at the next ordinary council meeting, which is in June 2022.
I don't think you have to move it. Okay, sorry. Yes, Councillor Forsyth moved it. Councillor Kelly Prime seconded it. All those in favour. Lots of talking. All those in favour. Carried. Thank you. So the process for the petition is that this will be assessed by the staff, and we'll have a report next month as the response. Item 14, documents for sealing, and we have 4. We have Councillor Forsyth and Councillor Janice.
Get that pen ready, Ron.
Yeah, that's right. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. And now, there being no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 6:49 p.m. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Fantastic crowd and really lovely to see you. And again, I just adore the Kiwa Valley. See ya.